All right, guys, so it's a new week. We got some new horror movie releases, some indie films, some stuff that might have gotten by you that you didn't know about that I got to check out this week. And some of these, some of these are good. So let's get into it. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing my weekly watch list. That's right. These are movies that I like to watch each week. Sometimes they're new, sometimes they're old, sometimes they're physical, sometimes they're digital. And this week we're going to be doing new releases for indie films that you might have missed. And it seems to be one that I've been trying to do because I'm playing catch up on a lot of movies that I might have missed throughout the year. And this one's a little bit more geared towards the past month. So these are going to be newer horror movie releases that you might want to check out that have released recently. Now, of course, I will provide everywhere that you can watch these releases, and I'll put links down below for any physical media that you might want to pick up. But man, do we have some good stuff. So let's get into it. First up is A Mother's Embrace, which is from 2024 technically, even though it just came out here in the States, and it is from Brazil. This is a movie that Screambox picked up for their streaming service. So if you've never had their service, they have a ton of different horror movies, just like Shudder does, and they even have their own originals that they pick up and put on their service. This one I thought was pretty damn good. So Jason of Sinister Cinema Reviews actually told me about this movie. I had seen a trailer for it previously, so it just kind of reminded me to check it out. Now, this movie is from Brazil, and it's about a massive storm that happens in 1996 in Rio de Janeiro, where a firefighter by the name of Anna and her firefighter team must evacuate a collapsing nursing home. But the mysterious residents have other sinister plans. Now, this is by director Christian Ponce, who I've never seen anything that they've done before this. Honestly, I think this is a pretty decent film, but I definitely think this isn't going to be something for a lot of different people. One, there are some heavy Lovecraftian sort of life and death tropes that are in this movie. Also, that weird factor where you go to a house and people aren't acting normal. That kind of vibe is going on in this movie. Essentially, the story is about that firefighter, Anna. She had a previous event happen in her life where she froze on the job, and they had to pull her out of the place because she was kind of losing it. And they put her on leave for a little while, and now they're getting her back out there. And she's sort of having some weird things happen again. So they're trying to blur the line between, is it her? Is it them, or is something else going on? And it's one of those kind of mystery films that has a lot of metaphors that are tucked into it. When she goes to this place with her crew, some weird things start happening. People are acting really abnormal, and there's it almost feels like an Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of movie where people are not acting like they were once you first meet them. But it definitely has that metaphor attached to it about sort of life, death, trauma, the things that we deal with and experience in life that track us down years later in our lives. There is a lot of things in this movie that may be a little confusing for some of the viewers that watch it, but I honestly think it's worth a watch to check it out. Now, it does take a little while to get where it's going. They do give you some goods in the very beginning of the movie, but it kind of bounces around a lot, and you're not really sure who's who, if someone's older or younger, and you're seeing the younger version of them and the older version of them. So I can totally understand how some people would find this movie very frustrating because it does have somewhat of a lower score, but people like me and Jason will actually get into these kind of movies, specifically because there's some things that are in this movie that appeal to us that has a Lovecraftian tinge, but I think there's more to it in this movie than just Lovecraft. It's definitely not specifically or only Lovecraft. There is definitely more at play here with life and death. But it is supernatural. It does some weird stuff. A lot of iconography and metaphorical stuff in here. Ultimately, the very, very end of the movie is what's best, but it does take a long time to get there. So, if you're not into slow burns and you're not into mysteries that don't tell you what's going on right away, this one's going to get on your nerves a little bit. But I honestly thought it was like a 6.5 out of 10. It didn't bother me that much, but I know a lot of you guys, they're just They don't have the patience to wait until the goods on that one. It's not even the best goods at the very end. It's just interesting what they did with this movie. But if you want to check it out, it's on Screenbox. There is no physical media that I know of as of yet. But yeah, check it out if you like. Up next, we got a new one, and this is a DVD that I got from MVD called Home Sweet Hell. It's a Thai film, and you can kind of see, like, there's some weird stuff coming out of her mouth there. Very supernatural-esque kind of film, only on DVD, and it came out, I believe, in 2024. It's a little bit hard to find online as far as, like, the name, and I don't know if it's because I keep saying Home Sweet Evil, Home Sweet Hell. You know, I get the name mixed up a little bit. Also, there was another movie called Home Sweet Hell from I don't know, 2015 or something like that. It was a comedy romance thing. So not that movie, okay? If you're looking for it, it's this one. This is kind of like an early release on DVD. So sometimes it doesn't hit the streaming services just yet, and it only comes to DVD as they're kind of sort of testing the market. It's about a young couple that relocates to a traditional Thai house, and they're hoping for a new peaceful life. You know, they are very close to one another. One of them is about to pop the question and just is waiting for the right moment to do it, but he feels so broke that he's not sure he should do it yet. But the home's disturbing history when they go there soon resurfaces as vengeful spirits awaken. And as each of these events start to rapidly happen, they must uncover the truth before the haunting consumes all of them. This is by director Bo Nippon Charanpon, hope I'm saying the name right, and it is a very indie film. There's some ideas in it that I really like. The pacing is not something that I was really fond of in this film, but some of the practical effect and makeup that they did and some of the scare gags and stuff that they did in this movie, I thought were pretty decent for an indie film. But you're gonna have to lower your expectations on this one. This is definitely indie. I think that they could have edited this and shortened it down quite a bit. I know why they had some issues with it, because there's some characters in the film that go from being good to bad, and they want to make it seem realistic. So the pacing is something that's like up to taste, and just my particular taste, it didn't seem believable, even though they took the long period of time to get that person to the other end and be bad and everything like that. So it kind of has some troubles with itself in here, trying to be too dramatic. There are some believable scenes in the acting and stuff. Like, I thought it was competent. Some of the scenes were really bad, not like extremely bad, but just very mediocre in some regard. But I honestly think some of the practical effects and scares that they had in this movie were not too bad. You know, some of the stuff in it was genuinely creepy. They took the time to make the ghosts look very scary. They did do some of the stuff that I see a little too much in films, which is the 2 dot eyes floating around in the dark, which, yes, it is creepy. It was creepy when I saw it in Amityville. It was creepy, you know, the original one, by the way. It was creepy in the hundreds of films I've seen it. And there's a new software out there that you can just put 2 dots on just about anything in a movie to make it seem like it's like back there. And there's like nothing added to it to make it seem any different than those 2 glowing dots. And for whatever reason, that just kind of is a pet peeve of mine a little bit, because I feel like people could do more with it. The film, where it really lags, is kind of in the storytelling. They have this girl who is inheriting a new home, and there's this old story about like riches on the land, because there's some stuff that happened in Thailand that, you know, left a bunch of like gold on the property, and the guy's going broke and owes all these debts. Sort of a bad guy when you find out, and it's hard to not spoil this movie because it is kind of so predictable in a lot of ways. They try to attempt to be different. They try to be scarier, and I feel like it was a good try. It just didn't fully work. And with an hour and 40-minute like time, it felt a little heavy, a little too long for the movie to continue on. And I think it needed to be short, punchier, and kind of to the point, even if it sacrificed a little bit of the believability, because the believability didn't really matter by the end. But I do get to give it kudos for being an independent film, enough to keep my attention, but not enough to make me think anything of it more fondly. It's just kind of like a 4.5 or a 5 out of 10. But if you like supernatural and you do like Thai films, this isn't, you know, It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's just got some indie stuff in it that, you know, in my particular taste, didn't work for me. But if you want to check it out, MVD Shop has a copy for pretty cheap, and you can check it out with the link down below. Maybe it'll be for you, but sorry guys, it just wasn't for me. Up next, we got Strange Harvest, which I have been hearing everybody talk about this movie because it came out into theaters and a lot of the underground was talking about this film saying, oh my God, it's so different and unique. It's a found footage film that they did for this slasher character that's like in this movie, and it is a visceral kind of ride. They do some stuff in it that's really cool. But they also do a lot of that storytelling through the newscast. So it's almost like you're watching a documentary and then it unfolds for the footage by the very end of the movie. So the thing that they're talking about all the way through is kind of done in that way that you've seen other films do it, like The Last Transmission, or, you know, I mean, even The Blair Witch has some sort of that element to it, but also many other films over the years have done it. But what they do is really good. So like the news segments seem very believable. The actors seem like the characters that they're playing. It feels very authentic. But the killer looks really cool too. And you don't really get to see him until towards the end, really. It takes a while for that to happen because you're going through all these like many true crime stories of things that have happened to all these people, and all the like different occurrences and like these markings that he leaves behind. And they really do a good job of sort of painting us. If you are a true crime person, this is definitely going to appeal to you. Now, if you're also a found footage film person and you like that angle where they do the news sort of documentary style, this might also be a good one for you too, because where it ends up is much different than you may think. I can't say much more than that, but just know it's kind of like a slasher documentary about this guy who's going around as a serial killer, and detectives are pretty much telling the story about this chilling guy called Mr. Shiny. He's like this crazy serial killer that's from the past who's returning by putting a mark on places where the victims appear and beginning a new wave of grotesque otherworldly crimes tied to a dark cosmic force. So yes, there's the key words that'll make your, you know, tentacles pop up and go, huh? But this is by director Stuart Ortiz. He was one of the guys that created Grave Encounters. He also wrote Grave Encounters and wrote Grave Encounters 2 and many more. I thought it was a pretty competent film, and he hasn't really done a lot of other films considering he only did the Grave Encounters with Colin Minihan, who went on and did, you know, many other films as well. They still work together, but Colin has gone his own way to direct some stuff, and now Stuart Ortiz is now directing it. And I gotta say, this is a really good step forward for Stuart. I think it's a really good movie in particular. I think it's a really damn good indie film that's made in a very big way. And the stuff that they do in it is actually pretty cool. The ending, it could have been a little better for me, but I do like what they were trying to do with it, what they were trying to say with it. And I think the lead up was really solid. I'm kind of at a 7.5 out of 10 on this one. It is very solid work, and that makes me usually want to lean to the 8, but I'm kind of parked a little bit at the 7.5, which can be a sweet spot for a lot of the films that I watch, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, this one I thought was pretty cool. There are some people that absolutely love this film. They like how different it feels for found footage films, so it might be the perfect treat for you. If you want to check it out, it's on rent in a couple of places. Strange Harvest 2025, just look it up. I know that you can watch it on YouTube, so like, you know how they rent movies there? You can watch it on YouTube, or I think I watched it on Amazon, but I had to do a search for it in Google, and then it took me to Amazon because I couldn't find it through Prime Video for some reason. I don't know why, but it's up. And if you want to check it out, check it out. Up next, we have another movie from India that is a movie that I had seen on Netflix. Part 2 was on Netflix. And I was like, well, I got to see the first one because I don't know what the hell it is. And Jason from Sinister Cinema, who also watches a lot of movies like me, had suggested to watch it. And I was like, okay, well, this is the the thing I need to like put me over the edge to find it. You might have to use a VPN to watch this movie. There are links online to watch this film, which is a real shame because Vash from 2023 is a really good movie. But you're going to want to look for this picture. Don't look for the remake. There's like a remake called Shaitan by the same director. I think he like had something to do with it. And then there's also another movie called Vash that's from India that's not this movie. So you want to look for this picture when it comes to finding the movie. It's a very hard film to find, but I think if you can find it and you use a VPN to watch it, you'll be okay. So what is it all about? Why am I talking about it? Well, first of all, Vash is a story that is about this family that is on a trip across the country. I don't even remember what it was, but they're traveling across the country and they are going to their cabin to stay with their family to celebrate something that has happened. The daughter is a little bit of a tropey, angsty teen who doesn't really want to do anything with the family and just wants to be independent. This is the typical trope. They stop at a food place on the way where the daughter won't eat anything. The father goes to pay for the food. Counter person said, "That bill's too big. I can't break that. I will have no change left if I break that." And he's like, "Why not? Why can't you take it?" And so some other random stranger comes up and says, "I'll buy your coffee for you, don't worry." And so then he does. They offer him a place to sit down, and somehow he starts entrancing the daughter without the family knowing to do things that he says. She starts listening to him, and he's telling her to like eat her fry bread when she wouldn't eat it before, or apologize to this person, or do this. And at first they're thinking he's just being a good uncle, random guy who's like telling her to have good manners, and they don't realize it until they show up at their cabin and he happens to come to that cabin and they're like, "That's weird that you're here." And he's like, "Oh, I was just driving by. What a weird coincidence." And then he comes in and starts hanging out with the family, making the daughter do things against their will and against her own will. And the family is held captive because he threatens to take out one of the family members by telling her to take him out, to kill him. And it gets really violent, very disturbing, very quickly. And you realize that this family's helpless because they can't hurt their daughter, trying to stop her, who has no willpower to stop her own self. What are they going to do? It's really interesting, though, how the niceties sort of kind of go away. All of the like keeping up appearances floats away. And then you're just left with this like maniacal guy who is just so fucking sure of himself. And you absolutely hate this guy. He makes the daughter do some crazy stuff, and the parents are absolutely helpless. It's intense. Clearly, it gets so much worse as things go on. More bloody, more violent, more disturbing. And the way that it ends up is really pretty crazy. You're wondering, how are they going to get out of this? And there is no easy way out of this. So things get really, really messed up by the end of the movie. I was like really into this film. The vibe, the tone was very similar to something like A Coffee Table, which, if you've seen that movie, holds you on the edge of your seat the entire time. Not as good, clearly not as good, not as masterful, but damn good, and one of the better India films that I've seen. Now, there is a level of sort of like over-the-topness, and I'm not sure if that's just like the Bollywoodness of like a lot of the cinema culture out there and what they like to see on the screen. I don't mean that there's any kind of singing or anything involved in it. It's just like this over-the-top vibe that you'll get where you're going to have to suspend your disbelief a little bit in order to enjoy the film. But just remember, you're watching a fictional story. None of this stuff can actually happen, but they try to make it seem as real as they can. But there's just some moments in the movie where you can see some of the cracks in that. But if you just kind of suspend your disbelief a little and just go for the ride, I promise you, you're going to have a good time. He makes her do a lot of things that she can't stop from doing. And if her family tries to stop him from doing it, she threatens to have her try to kill her brother or herself or someone else and attack them. And it's like, what are you going to do? You don't want to hurt somebody that is your family and is being controlled by this jackass. And so he has this control over him, and he sets his family through all these different tasks and makes them do all these really messed up things that gets really intense as it goes on and on and on. And I thought it was really good. Like, I'm like close to an 8 on this one because it's just so intense. Now, I don't want to say it's as good as The Coffee Table, but I got similar vibes from the tension that I got from this movie in it. It's one of those movies in the sweet spot that I would watch a lot just because the story and the premise is so intriguing, the ride is so thrilling, and it gets really dark and just messed up, and you just really hate this guy. So the way it ends too is just wild. It was so wild that they had to make a sequel. And that's why I know about this film, is because the sequel's on Netflix. They need to release this on Netflix as well. I don't know why they would release the sequel on Netflix. But up next, we also have Vash Level 2, which, like as I mentioned, is on Netflix. It took a couple of years for them to make the sequel. A lot of people really wanted to see the sequel, and I was lucky that I didn't have to wait 2 years. So I got to watch it right afterward. This is also directed by Krishnadev Yanik. Also, he had another director on there, Yas Vaishnav, who also helped direct this movie as well. So this one is definitely a sequel, okay? So where the first one is really tense, kind of graphic and dark, this one really goes for the darkness and really goes for the gore, really goes for the like disturbing, and it's a little bit on the over-the-top range, but it's also over top in like all the best ways. Like if you want to see a sequel for a movie, you want to see it get amped up, right? And this movie does that. They definitely went for a much more over-the-top thing with this movie as you sort of go through some of the same experiences, but on a different level, and it's Level 2 on this one, by the way. So this one takes place 12 years after the first movie, and I can't tell you how this one starts without ruining the end of the first movie. So let's just say there are some surviving members. Things went really poorly for a lot of them. It wasn't a perfect situation. And the sequel takes off from where the first one does and ups the ante quite a bit. An entire school this time is being wooed by another person who is causing these kids to literally jump off the roof against their will because they ate this thing at lunch that he put it in, which gets them to be hypnotized by him and do anything that he wants to say. Now, you don't find out who this person is or why they're doing it until, quite a bit into the movie, but there's some crazy things that happen, and it connects the two movies in such a way that it really makes a lot of sense. And it's really dark as to why these two movies connect in a way. But man, these strange events start happening again on a much wider scale, entire like swaths of kids. A lot of people are comparing this movie to Weapons, because in Weapons, they have similar things that go on in there. And, it's just one of those movies that you have to see if you saw the first one, even if you don't like it as much, which for me, honestly, I did not like the sequel as much as the first one. I felt like the first one was much more intense, but there is some really intense moments in the sequel as well. They definitely go for over the top. This kind of adds that element into this movie to have a little bit more fun. And I honestly think it works in a way. I don't know that you could have taken it too much seriously. It kind of would have taken away from the film a little bit. But the first movie, in my opinion, is a little bit more serious. Second one is a little bit more over the top and like wildly like violent and bloody and gory. So, they both have things that are good in it, and I think they're both worth watching. I would bring my score down to about a 6.5 on this one, but it's leaning towards a 7. So about a point off from the first one, but they're both really good to watch, and I highly recommend you watch both of them so you can see the story arc kind of finish itself. And I'm pretty sure they're probably going to do a third one, which is just insane. I have a theory on what they might do, and it's pretty wild. But yeah, I got to say, like, I'm very impressed with these movies. Even if they're not 10 out of 10s, they're still memorable films that you should watch, and I highly recommend them. Like I said, part 2 is on Netflix. The other one you're going to have a little bit harder time to find, but you can find it. You may have to watch it on a computer screen, but I think it's worth it. But that's it. That's everything for my weekly watch list, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed watching these movies this week, and I hope you get a chance to too. So check them out and see what you think. Let me know which one of these movies sounds more interesting to you than the others. Are you going to check any of these out? Have you seen any of these? I would love to hear what you think in the comment section down below. But thank you guys so much for coming by. I am going to be traveling soon, So I hope you'll tune in to every one of my videos, share it with someone that you love, and thanks, and as always, long live the void.